Right, so that's Chelsea's last game in the Premier League before they lost to Brighton in the FA Cup. They get to play Brighton again. This time in the Premier League proper, match week 25. It's kicking off later tonight at 8 p.m. Jay, just start off this conversation with me on Chelsea's. Now the objective clearly for them is to finish in the top 4 and compete in the Champions League next season. Their head coach says that they're ahead of schedule in terms of where he expects Chelsea to be. Do you agree with him?
I think to a degree, I'll agree with him in the sense that for Chelsea, I do believe this season, if you ask me, was a season of stability.
Okay.
So a season to trim the squad, find out the players in that, is it 40-man squad or whatever it is, that fits his system. Then now build some cohesion with the team. Then from there, they can put in certain objectives like qualify for Champions League and all those things. I think with the Conference League, they have a very, very good chance of winning it. So that would be one trophy from Europe. But then, with how they started the season, I think up until the game week 18 or 19, they had lost just 2 games.
Yeah.
And that was to Manchester City. That was the first game of the season.
Yeah,
and
so
Liverpool.
they started capitulating in December.
Yeah, I think mid-December.
Very horrible run. I think they went about 4 games without a win.
Yes, and I think in the last 7, they've won just 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So, and that's just after the press conference where Enzo finally comes out to say they are not title contenders. Everything begins to go down. But this is to be expected. If you have a squad with a lot of young players, some of these inconsistent performances are bound to happen. Also coupled with the fact that this is the manager's first season, and this is more or less an entirely new squad he's trying to put together. And over time, over the course of the season, there have been things that everybody has been pointing out, like the goalkeeping situation. Sanchez hasn't been convincing. Over the entire course of this season, he's had 5 errors that have led to goals.
Yeah.
If you compare that to Arsenal as an entire team, they've had 0 defensive actions that have led to goal, or errors that have led to goal. So it shows you that defensively also, they don't seem to have the perfect pair. They've had injuries. With James, he comes in 1 game, goes for 10, those kind of things. But I think credit to Enzo, they seem to be playing some good football. He seems to have finally found a way for Enzo and Caicedo to work. Cole Palmer seems to be liberated. But up front, Nicolas Jackson, just as Chelsea's form has dipped, his form has also dipped. I think in the last 5 or 6 games, he hasn't scored. Now he's injured. I don't know if he'll be available for this game. I doubt.
No.
He won't be available.
He's likely out for about 4 weeks.
Yeah. 4 weeks. So that takes you to the end of March. And even before that, he wasn't scoring much. So for Chelsea, it looks like it's back again. Everything is on Cole Palmer's shoulder. And then in games where managers tend to find a tactic or a system to mark him out of the game, Chelsea suffers. Because the rest of the team is blowing hot and cold. Caicedo consistent, but he's not going to give you goals. He's more or less going to break the play and try to initiate attack. But once he releases the ball, those up front, Neto, hot and cold, Nkunku doesn't seem to. I think he wanted to leave or loan or something. Doesn't seem to be getting the look in. So for Chelsea, I'm not too worried based on just maybe Newcastle chasing them, Manchester City not consistent. So they might finish in 5th, and that might be good for them to get into the Champions League. But clearly, this Brighton game, just based on how Brighton dealt with them in the FA Cup, Brighton also not too convincing. But Chelsea, I think they need to put their house in order. Whether it's Sanchez or is it Jorgensen, none of them seem to be even elite level goalkeepers. If you
this weekend, the head coach Maresca said that Jorgensen going forward will be the number 1. So clearly means that he's dropped Sanchez.
He should have dropped Sanchez after game week 4, so if you ask me. But then for Chelsea, I think this season is let's say a dress rehearsal. Get things, see how best they can fit their 100 million buys into the system, get them playing, and then they can build from there. But then it's clear that this team would need a proper goalkeeper and a proper striker to start with.
Okay.
Outside that, I do think that next season is going to be harder for them. If you look at how Newcastle and Forest are building up, they need to put their house in order. But for this game, I think Brighton have their
so Brighton to win?
No, I don't think Chelsea will win. I think Brighton have their upper hand.
Okay. Talk to me about what we should expect from Brighton. They've already beaten Chelsea in the FA Cup, but I'm pretty sure their head coach, Chelsea's head coach, Maresca, will look at that game and pick up some lessons. In fact, that game had just 1 shot on target. I don't even know if it's a shot on target. The goal from Cole Palmer, that ricocheted off the goalkeeper and went. Chelsea were just abysmal up front.
Yeah, and it's likely to get worse because Maguire is not available for this game. Nicolas Jackson, as you've already mentioned, is not
So
available
they get
for
to
this
rely
game.
on Christopher and Nkunku.
Christopher Nkuku, and it looks like he's not really the manager's
Choice.
favorite, and it looks like he doesn't have a lot of confidence on his part, to lead the line, to play the usual way he usually plays. And on top of that, looks like the manager doesn't have a lot of confidence in him, and so that's likely to bring about issues. So if you are looking at the possibility of having maybe Cole Palmer as a false nine, and if you have him as a false nine, who is the one going to be creating the chances for him to score? And if he's not the false nine, then who is going to come in? Are you going to have Jadon Sancho as the false nine with Madueke and Pedro Neto starting on either wing? That's the problem, because I don't see where the goals are coming from, unless maybe Tosna Darabioyo gets to connect on a set piece or two. That's the most likely source of goals, other than Cole Palmer. And so that's where there's a problem. Aside that, I think they should be looking out for what Brighton and Hove Albion present or give them defensively, because in that FA Cup game, Brighton were able to take over that midfield with Carlos Baleba coming back into the fold. They looked a little bit more settled, a little bit more organized, and they were able to deal with that 50-50 challenges, win those 50-50 balls, and deal with Caicedo more or less. They neutralized him. He did a very good job neutralizing Caicedo. So if he can play in this game, I fancy Brighton and Hove chances of winning this matchup, knowing very well that they can play the ball over the top and take advantage of Chelsea's defensive high line. They can also pass the ball through Chelsea's midfield, because Noni Madueke or Jadon Sancho, they are not dropping deep to help out defensively. And even when they drop deep and they get to start an attack, unfortunately for Chelsea, you look at the fullback situation. If it's Malo Gusto, there's a problem. He's always hesitant a little bit attacking the way Reece James
would attack.
Because at the end of the day, you look at the threat from the Brighton and Hove Albion wingers, Yankuba Minte, Simon Adingwe and company. All of them, they pose serious threats. So I think he's very mindful of that. And I witnessed that in that FA Cup game, where consistently Noni Madueke was gesturing to Malo Gusto to move up a little bit.
Bump forward a bit.
Bump forward a little bit, create a little bit of an overlap, because if he doesn't create that overlap or move a little bit forward, there's a big space between Madueke and Malo Gusto. And that's where the Brighton Hove Albion midfielders consistently position themselves, because they knew that Carlos Baleba pretty much neutralized Moises Caicedo. And so you had Hinshelwood, all of these guys, Mitoma, because Mitoma was stationed in that spot. And so you had Hinshelwood consistently drifting towards that side. That created the overload, and they consistently took advantage of Malo Gusto's position. And so, they were able to attack Chelsea in different ways, and that brought about a lot of problems. And I wasn't surprised that they won that game. And so for me, I don't see Chelsea improving in any bit, not because that the coach isn't good, or they won't be able to watch tape and come up with a solution.
There are a lot of lapses he has to
It's just that the bodies that he has available, I don't think they will be able to get that job done, because defensively they have issues. They really have issues. One moment is Cole and Tosna Darabioyo, the next moment
he's actually chopped and changed the starting 11 in every, I saw it start in every 4 games they play, especially at the back.
And Coach Christopher Nimley always highlighted this issue with regards to Ten Hag and his difficulty at Man United.
It was the same thing.
Because of injuries and bad form, he consistently changed that back four over 25 times?
24, 26 different pairings.
Different combinations. And Chelsea are going through that phase. And once you do that, you don't have enough consistency, enough chemistry to be able to beat out those lapses in concentration. And on top of that, your goalkeeper situation isn't also settled. So goalkeeping issues unsettled, defensive issues unsettled,
Brighton,
forward issues unsettled. Yeah. So yeah, I'm giving it to Brighton.
So Brighton to win again. So
Yeah.
Yao and Jay all tipping Brighton to win against Chelsea tonight.